You have to think, and if you have a problem, the thinking is going to be troublesome because you're going to think things that upset yourself and upset other people. It's part of the necessity. It's part of what will necessarily happen if you're thinking.
I just want to repeat.
Yeah.
You said something that just stopped me. Sorry, because
Yep,
actually stopped me so completely cold
Yep.
that I missed a little bit of what followed. I just want to repeat it. There is no difference between speech and thought. If you're going to have free thought, you must have free speech.
Well,
that's the argument?
Yeah, okay. Well,
Okay,
I'll unpack
right?
that first and then return to the other
Please.
one. Well,
Right.
there's a bunch of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, mostly you think in words. Now, people also think in images, but I'm not going to go into that. We'll just leave that aside. But mostly we think in words. And so we use a mechanism that's sociologically constructed, the world of speech, to organize our own psyches. And we do that with speech. And basically, when you think, there's two components to it that are internal in a sense. When you think, you have a problem, so you ask yourself a question, and then answers appear in the theater of your imagination, generally verbally. So that'd be like the revelatory element of thought. And that's very much prayer-like in some fundamental sense, because it's very mysterious, you know, the fact that you can pose yourself a question and then you can generate answers. It's like, well, why did you have the question if you can generate the answers? If the answers are just there. And where do the answers come from? Well, you can give a materialist account to some extraordinarily limited degree, but phenomenologically it's still the case that you pose a question to yourself in speech and you receive an answer in speech. Now, it can also be an image, but forget about that. Well, then the next question is, well, what do you do once you receive the answer? And the answer is, well, if you can think, then you use internal speech to dissect the answer, which is what you do, for example, you encourage your students to do if they're writing an essay. You know, they lay out a proposition, and then you hope they can take the proposition apart. And essentially, if they are, what they're doing is they're transforming themselves into avatars, speaking avatars of two different viewpoints. So you have the speaker for the proposition, and then you have the critic, and maybe you lay out the dialogue between them, and that constitutes the body of the essay. And you have to be bloody sophisticated to manage that, because it means that you have to divide yourself in some sense into two avatars that are oppositional, and then you have to allow yourself to be the battle space between them. And people have to be trained to do that. That's what universities are supposed to do. It's really hard.